Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video, and I had to squeeze in one more layout this month. I've been hoarding this vellum piece all month long. I had lots of ideas for it when I first opened the kit, but I really just felt like it was so pretty. It needed a layout of its own to really shine. I was dying to use this as a background. So that's what I kind of decided to do. Now that I'm at the end of my kit, I just have tiny little scraps left. I do have these 2 heart cut files, and I mentioned when I did the kit share, I was given 3 of these heart cut files, and I really thought they would look really cute clustered together or separated out on different pages. So you guys already saw one layout where I used one of them, but for these last 2 heart cut files, I really wanted to cluster them together on a layout. So this is that layout. I decided to save them for one of Avery's pages. So this is again his birthday. This will go right next to actually the other layout that has the other heart cut files, so they're kind of companion pages and we'll coordinate that way. But I really wanted these layered hearts together on his picture of him and his mom. So that's my sister. I do have, when you see the photos, I do have one of the photos that has just a piece of paper blocking off a part of it, and that's just for respect to my sister's privacy. Nothing is showing in the photo, but they are doing skin to skin contact, and I just think a little bit too much of her is showing for her to be comfortable with it being on YouTube. So that's just why there's a piece of paper there. In the close-ups, I will remove the piece of paper and then just blur out that part of the photo, but I still can't really figure out the blurring on iMovie for moving photos. So I just covered it up. So you'll see that in a little bit. But all I'm doing now is using my scraps to mat these 2 cut files. I really wanted them to have different papers matted behind them, but still coordinating. I had a chunk of this tone-on-tone pink heart paper, which I thought was really cute. And then I also had a scrap of the orange paper that came in this collection, but it's kind of the middle portion of the page that reads a little peachy and almost pink, and I think they look really cute together. So I'm just taking my time to mat those really quick. My favorite trick for matting cut files is to flip over the back of the cut file and flip over the back of the paper you want matting and just trace it with a pencil and cut it out that way. It seems to be the fastest way for me to get the right sized piece of scrap for this. Because I am doing scraps, I do have to kind of piece together a little bit of this cut file, but the portion that the seam is in and the gap that's still on the back of that cut file, which you'll see in a minute, will end up being covered by the other heart. So it works out in the end, but I'm just trying to figure out here. That's how I want them layered, and you can still see the top of that back heart is open. So I'm just going to grab one more piece of that heart paper to help fill it in, and then I'm just going to cut really quick to when they're both filled in so we can continue with the process. And there we go. I think those look really cute layered up. And because this is vellum, obviously I need to kind of layer something behind it since it's going to be a 12 by 12 background. So I went through my stash. I was trying to look at kind of the colors I have left from this kit and figure out what I wanted this color scheme to be. So I already have pink. And I have a couple scraps of the yellow plaid from this collection that I really wanted to use as well. So I'm kind of thinking I wanted to pull in a navy just because it is a boy page. I want to pull in that blue, and I've kind of already noticed a theme with his pages, and I know this will not run through his whole baby album, but the photos I've done so far at least all have this blue, pink, and yellow color scheme, which I think is really sweet. So I kind of decided just to stick with that for this page. So I decided to pull in this One Canoe 2 constellation paper from Creekside. I love this paper. It will never get old. As long as I can find this paper, I will buy this paper. And I just thought it was really sweet having that navy constellation as the background. I trimmed down the vellum a little bit so you could really see that paper around the edge, but then you can still kind of see that constellation pattern through this vellum as well. But you can really see how beautiful that vellum looks when the light hits it. It hits that rose gold foil and it's so beautiful. So I really like how those papers work together. So I decided that's going to be my background. I have 3 photos here, so I decided to just layer them up in a photo strip. And I'm trying to scooch them in a little bit. I don't want them to run the full 12 by 12 of the page. So I do kind of overlap them a little bit to give me some layering room. But that's kind of why I decided to do that. I wanted them to be within the page, so I just layered it a little bit. But I just I think I just did like one strip of glue on that vellum to keep it in place on the 12 by 12 until I had the rest of the layers down. And then I think off screen at the end, I went back and added some more glue right behind the layers that are on the vellum to glue it down better to the background. But I definitely didn't want to add any adhesive that you would see through the top part of the page. But I went back to my stash because, again, I'm really out of my paper for this month and I needed some larger pieces to mat these 3 photos. So I just pulled in a scrap of a wood grain and I'm going to just mat all 3 of those photos together on that piece. I wanted something kind of neutral, and then I will glue down those hearts and kind of figure out how to finish out this page. This ends up being a really simple page, but I think it's really, really sweet. So I like how it ends up turning out. And I'm just so happy I got both of those heart cut files and this vellum used up too, because I was like, there's no way I'm not going to have those used by the end of this month, because they were some of my favorite pieces in this collection. So now you can kind of see how this layout is coming together. I definitely know I want to add more layers. I have this complex again where I want to add more layers, but I don't want to cover up the pretty paper. I knew 100% I had to get this wood grain piece on here. This is the last layout of the month and I really, really wanted to use it. I was trying to hoard it for a page for me and Marcus. But the next group of photos I have to scrap of me and Marcus are our engagement photo shoot. And I really want to scrapbook all of those with the same collection. So I didn't really want to use this collection for that, and it being the only page out of all of those that were different. So I decided to go ahead and use it on this Avery page. They are definitely worth this beautiful cut file being used. I'm thinking I might put it on one of these cut file hearts, but I end up changing my mind in a little bit because I don't know, I didn't want to cover up that much of the cut file. And then I was trying to figure out other ways to layer. It wasn't really making sense. You can see I already pulled in the same heart tone-on-tone pink branding strip to run across the bottom of those photos. And I think that's really cute. It balances the pink, but it doesn't stretch across the entire portion of the bottom part of those photos. So I'm thinking I'm going to need an embellishment cluster or something down there to kind of cover up the gap. But then what I end up doing is moving the wood grain piece down there, and that kind of spans the gap instead. And it works out a little different than I was planning, but it works out really cool, I think. So instead of having this branding strip run behind the cut file, I just cut it where the cut file is, and it ends up stretching the branding strip just far enough to reach where I wanted, and then there's just nothing behind the cut file, which I think looks kind of cool. You see what I mean in a minute here, but I think it sits really nice down there. I love it's on the photo of Avery. He looks so serious in that photo. I just cracked up when she sent that to me because he just looks so serious, but he's such a cute little baby. And you can't really tell in these photos. You'll tell on you'll tell on the next couple ones of him, but he's got some ginger hair. He's a a redheaded baby. It's more orange, I guess, but it's really cute. So I can't wait till you see those photos of him. But I'm going to go ahead and ink everything in blue. I do have this navy background, so I think continuing the blue inking is good on this page as well. So I'm inking that wood grain. I am not inking the cut files. I really like how crisp and clean they look. So I am not inking those. But I started to look and I was like, oh, I used the rest of the flowers I had for this kit on the last page, so I kind of need something to embellish on this layout. And I had so many scraps. I kind of revisited something I used to really love to do, which was make my own embellishment clusters using die cuts and punches. So that's what I'll end up doing, but I'll wait till I kind of get to that part to talk about that. But now that I've come up with this idea for the title and the wood grain piece being down here, I'm just trying to trim it up and get that glued down. I do really like where the hearts are layered. I really want them tucked down over these photos, but not covering up anything too important. So it's pretty much just covering up part of the hospital bed and then the empty space in the other photo of Avery. So it covers up a little bit of him, but you can see him fully in the other 2 photos. And Obviously, this is Avery's baby album. We had lots of photos of him at this age. So the page right before this is a photo of just him, and the page after this is a photo of just him. So it's okay, I feel like, if I cover up a tiny part of his head on this page. So that's just why I decided to make that decision. I'm going to go ahead and glue them down. I just really like how they look all nested down against the photos. It looks a little cute and clustery. But I did want something else running behind those. I just needed an extra layer. It looked too plain the way it was. So I kind of went through my stash. I already used the pattern glassine bag that came in this collection, which also would have looked really nice on this page. But I liked that idea of using a pattern glassine bag. So I went through my stash. I knew I had some because Ronnie sent me a whole bunch of die cuts recently in some pattern glassine bags. And I had used all the die cuts in one of the bigger bags. So I decided to pull that in as a layer, but I don't know if I do that just yet or if I start looking at embellishment. I might be looking for that glassine bag now, actually. I'm going to cut for a second until I am back with the bag. And there it is. I really think it looks cute just peeking up behind those hearts, but I do want it to be, since it is kind of a different colored blue and it's a very different looking paper than I've used so far on this page. I definitely want it in more than just one spot. I don't want it just at the top here. It might look a little weird. So you just saw me trim the bottom portion of that bag, and I'm going to tuck that up at the bottom of the page where the Love You wood veneer is, just so it looks like a really long bag. But that way that color and that pattern are basically sandwiching the photos, so it's still balanced and it looks more cohesive. So I toyed around if I really wanted to introduce such a different blue, but I think it's so different that it still kind of works, like it's okay. So I'm gonna just get that tucked down, and then I'm looking through some other things that I want to add. I don't know if I do my ephemera yet. I definitely have some of the wood veneer hearts that were sent to me with this Love You wood veneer, so I know I want to use those as finishing touches in my embellishment clusters, but I don't have embellishment clusters yet, so I kind of have to figure that out first. But I think I'm trying to figure out what part I do next. I found this really cute yellow tag that's been in my stash for forever. I think that's what happened. I had this really cute scrap of the yellow plaid that comes in this collection that I know I'm going to end up using, but there's not really enough of that yellow plaid to do enough with it. So I found this yellow tag in my stash, and I decided if that was a layer, it would make more sense to pull in the yellow that I was really wanting to use from this collection. So I'm doing the same thing I did with the bag. I'm just cutting a portion of it and tucking it at the bottom of the page, and then tucking the main portion up at the top. But it adds another layery detail, another color, and then that way it introduces that yellow, so I can really pull in yellow when I get to my embellishment clusters. So I'm going to get those glued down, and then I will start working on my die cuts. So you can see all my scraps over there to the left. It's kind of hard because the largest scraps that are over there are the papers I already used in my heart cut files, and so I'm really not wanting to introduce a whole lot more of that. So I'm really wanting to pull in the yellow, but as you can see, there's a tiny little scrap. So here are all my die cuts. I just dumped out all my tiny ones. I'm just going to use my little tiny diamond press die cut machine. I really love this little machine, and I used to use it a lot. I do have my larger Evolution Express die cut machine, but before I decided to invest in that larger one, I bought this little diamond press die cut machine that I saw Adele from Inky Quill using. It's cheap, so it kind of is what you pay for, but it was perfect to kind of decide if die cutting was going to be something I would use on my pages, and I actually still do use it a lot. It's really perfect to create little embellishment clusters with smaller dies, and I still use it even though I have my big one, just because it's so easy. It sits on my table, and that way I don't have to pull out my big heavy one. So I do, when I want to do embellishment clusters, use that one a lot still. And I decided just to do something I used to do a lot on my pages, which was die cut a couple hearts, layer them together, stick them on like a tab or a label or something, and that was my little cluster. So that's what I decided to do. Is kind of nostalgic putting these together, but as you can see, I just cut a label out of the yellow. I pretty much just took a triangle and then took my hole puncher to create that little ticket looking edge for the label, and now I'm just going through and cutting out a couple hearts. I just want the hearts to be like contrasting papers and colors so that they stand apart, but they kind of pull in the color scheme. So I'm going to do 2 clusters here. The label and the 2 hearts are all going to be either yellow, pink, or blue, and that way it kind of reflects again the color scheme I'm going for. So I got my label, and now I'm doing my hearts, and I will label those together. And kind of once I have this first one made, I'm going to go ahead and jump through me cutting apart all the pieces for this next one. But you can see this cute little cluster here, and I'm basically going to do the exact same thing for a cluster up by the baggie. So I'm going to cut to there so you don't have to watch me do that all over again. Okay, and so other piece, magically made. I think this looks super cute. And I love a chance to get to use more of that navy paper. I really love that blue paper from this collection. So now that those 2 pieces are down, I kind of have created my embellishment visual triangle between the title and these 2 pieces. So that's where I decided to scatter the little heart wood veneers that came with that little love you piece. So I'm going to have 2 with each of those labels and the other 2 down by the title. And I really don't feel like I need to do any journaling. This is a coordinating page with his birthday page that you guys saw earlier in the month that already had like his weight and how tall he was and all that kind of stuff. So I really don't feel like I need to journal too much on this one. So I'm just trying to figure out finishing touches, what I want to do. And honestly, I kind of like how it looks now. I kind of feel like these little wood veneer hearts are my finishing touches. So it is more of a simple page, but I really did want this vellum and these heart cut files and that little wood veneer piece to really shine. So I do kind of like how it's more minimalistic. So now I'm just getting all of these glued down. I do like this technique for more fiddly pieces to just have some glue off to the side, and then I'm just using some tweezers to dab it in the glue a little bit and then stick them down. So that's all I did for that. But here are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm glad I got one more page squeezed in this month using all of these goodies. The layout shares will be the last day of the month, so stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.